Mexico's Isla de las Muñecas, or Island of the Dolls, is straight out of a horror movie. There are no concrete buildings, no electricity, or running water.
Nature's spent years hammering away at this place. Cold, harsh winds beating every inch of it.
You think haunted houses are creepy? That's nothing. Around the world, there are entire places so cursed, so abandoned, and so dangerous, you wouldn't last a single minute there. From islands filled with vipers, to towns swallowed by sand, and even a castle where legends say no one leaves the same. And just when you think you've seen it all, wait until you hear what's hiding beneath the waves. That one will shock you. Number 20, Island of Dolls, Mexico.
It looks like we're finally here. We are at the Island of the Dolls.
It started with one doll. In the 1950s, a man named Don Julian Santana Barrera moved to a little island in the Xochimilco canals in Mexico. One day he found the body of a drowned girl. The next day, a doll floated up in the water. Believing it belonged to her, he tied it to a tree to honor her. But it didn't stop there. Don Julian claimed he began seeing shadows, hearing voices, and feeling the girl's spirit wasn't at peace.
So then as time went on, he kept hearing these voices at night, girls crying, like spooky noises and like scratching sounds, everything.
So for 50 years, he collected dolls, broken ones, burned ones, missing eyes or limbs, and hung them everywhere. Locals said he picked the creepiest ones to protect himself from evil. Tourists started visiting. They swore doll heads turned, eyes opened, whispers echoed. No proof, but the legends spread. Then, in 2001, Don Julian died in the same canal where the girl had drowned. Some say mermaids sang to him as he passed. Today, about 4,000 dolls hang there. The island even holds a Guinness World Record. Boats still bring visitors in to hear his story and maybe see the dolls move. But while Don Julian filled his island with haunted dolls, nature was building something far more dangerous on another island. Number 19, Snake Island, Brazil. About 20 miles off Brazil's coast, there's a tiny place called Ilha da Queimada Grande, better known as Snake Island.
Not surprisingly, it's known as Snake Island, and it's probably the most dangerous place on the planet.
And what lives there? Thousands of golden lancehead vipers. After the last ice age, rising seas trapped snakes on the island. Isolated, they evolved venom 3 to 5 times stronger than their mainland relatives. One bite can melt flesh or kill within an hour. Scientists estimate there's at least one snake for every 75 square meters. Some areas, even more. In the early 1900s, a lighthouse was built, but when it got automated in the 1920s, people left, and the snakes stayed. Now, only Brazilian Navy personnel and researchers are allowed on the island. Of course, stories spread. Pirate treasure buried under snake-infested ground. A lighthouse family wiped out by a swarm of vipers. But scientists say, no confirmed deaths.
This is an unnatural disaster. This is a man-made catastrophe.
The real danger isn't mythical, it's biological. The snakes are critically endangered, and the island remains one of the deadliest spots on Earth. Now, speaking of danger, this next place didn't need vipers. A single flickering light was enough to terrify travelers for decades. Number 18, Moonville Tunnel, Ohio. In the 1850s, the Marietta and Cincinnati Railroad cut through thick Ohio woods. A landowner, Samuel Coe, gave them land for free to run the rails. That deal led to the Moonville Tunnel. A small mining town called Moonville popped up around it. About 100 people lived there, but tragedy followed the trains. The most famous story? A brakeman who, drunk one night, tried waving a lantern to stop a train. He slipped and was decapitated. Since then, people say his ghost swings a lantern through the tunnel.
And many times when you go to the Moonville Tunnel, you can actually see the orange light swinging back and forth.
Another tale tells of engineer Theodore Lawhead, killed in an 1880 collision. His spirit is said to wander the tracks. By the 1940s, the mines closed. By 1947, the last family left. Only the tunnel and a cemetery remained. In 1981, train crews even installed a signal light because engineers were slamming on brakes after seeing ghostly lanterns inside.
The lantern was set up for the brakeman to communicate with the engineer, much like the traffic lights that we have today.
Real deaths and legends blur here. Today, hikers still hear footsteps or spot swinging lights. The tunnel now sits on a 10-mile rail trail, but the ghost stories never left. And while a single tunnel holds its share of spirits, this next place was built to hold bones. Thousands of them. Number 17. Sedle Ashuary, Czech Republic. In 1278, a Cistercian abbot brought back soil from Golgotha and sprinkled it over Sedle Cemetery in the Czech Republic. That made the ground holy. When the Black Death hit in the mid-1300s, around 30,000 bodies were buried there. The Hussite Wars added 10,000 more. By the early 1400s, a Gothic church was built above a lower chapel, and bones were stacked below. Legend says a half-blind monk arranged the bones in 1511 and regained his sight. But in 1870, things changed. A woodcarver, František Rint, was hired to arrange the bones artistically. The result? Bone garlands, a chandelier made with nearly every type of human bone, and a family coat of arms, all crafted from the dead. Today, an estimated 40 to 70,000 skeletons fill the chapel. National Geographic confirmed that chandelier contains almost every bone in the human body. No ghosts, no curses, just a chilling reminder of mortality. Every year, more than 200,000 visitors walk beneath that bone-filled ceiling, leaving with a story they'll never forget. And while those bones remain frozen in time in one remote Japanese village, life left, but something else quietly took its place. Number 16. Nagoro, Doll Village, Japan. Nagoro used to be a bustling village in Japan's Shikoku Island. Around 300 people once lived there, but by 2015, only 27 remained. That's when Tsukimi Ayano returned to care for her father. She noticed empty homes, fields, and silence. So she crafted a scarecrow version of her father, using straw and old clothes. Locals even greeted it as if it were real.
年上は私とこの父親、94歳。
94歳。はい。
From there, Tsukimi kept going. Today, over 350 life-sized dolls stand in the village, each with a backstory, name, and real clothes. Some sit in classrooms, some at bus stops, some in fields. Even a school, closed in 2012, holds dolls dressed as its last students. Tourists began visiting, drawn by the eerie sight. Myths call Nagoro cursed or haunted, but there's no evidence of ghosts. The truth? It's a story of grief, memory, and one woman's creative way of keeping her community alive.
So like I said, these people are all over town. Here I am just a little bit further down the road.
In a fading village, the dolls now outnumber the living and silently watch as visitors pass through. Number 15. Helltown. It sounds like a place you'd see in a horror movie. Helltown, Ohio. But here's what really happened. Back in 1806, Boston Township was settled and later became Boston Mills. The town grew through the 1820s with canals, then a railroad. Fast forward to 1974, President Ford signed a law allowing the National Park Service to buy private land for conservation. On December 27th, the Cuyahoga Valley was chosen. Families were forced out. Homes were boarded up or burned for fire drills. Angry locals even scrawled, "Now we know how the Indians felt," on some walls. Over time, myths spread. Satan worship at the church, haunted school buses, mutant snakes. But here's the truth. The upside-down crosses, just Gothic church designs.
But many people speculate the church was home to a cult that conducted black masses and practiced human sacrifices.
The school bus? A family used it while repairing their home. As for mutant snakes, tests showed typical rashes, not mutations. Roads like End of the World are simply steep and twisted. The real story? A community displaced, homes left behind, and legends filling the silence. Now, while Helltown's ghosts were just rumors, this next island in Italy holds a far darker real history beneath the myths. Number 14. Povalia, Italy. Povalia's story starts way back. Recorded in the year 421, when refugees from Padua and Este fled invasions and settled there. In the 9th century, it became fortified, eventually guarding the Venetian lagoon. But by 1776, the island was repurposed, turned into a lazaretto, a quarantine station for plague victims. During outbreaks, over 100,000 people were sent here to die. Mass graves were dug. Bodies were burned. In 1922, a psychiatric hospital opened. That's when the myths took hold. Stories of a mad doctor performing lobotomies, then leaping from the bell tower. But records show no proof. Archaeologists did uncover plague bones, earth packed into jaws, a burial practice to ward off evil. The truth is grim enough. Povalia was a death island, first for the plague, later an asylum, now abandoned. Ghost hunters tell tales of spirits and curses, but no verified paranormal activity has been recorded. The real horror? Generations of pain buried in those silent fields. And speaking of things buried beneath water, this next discovery in China revealed an entire forgotten city beneath a lake. Number 13. Shieng, Lion City, China. Shieng, or Lion City, was built during the Eastern Han Dynasty around the year 208. Over centuries it grew, a thriving center with stone buildings, paved roads, 5 city gates, and 265 archways. Then came 1959. The Chinese government built the Xin'an River Dam, creating Qiandao Lake. The entire city was deliberately flooded. About 300,000 people were relocated, and the city submerged under about 40 meters of fresh water. For decades it was forgotten, until 2001, when divers rediscovered it. What they found was a time capsule. Guardian lions, dragon carvings, archways, all perfectly preserved under the clear lake. In 2011, Chinese National Geography published stunning images. Now, Shieng is a protected relic. Deep divers visit between April and November. Of course, myths call it China's Atlantis or a haunted city, but the real story is more powerful. Now, from a city underwater to a prison built to bury men alive, this next story takes us to the dark heart of Tennessee. Number 12. Brushy Mountain Penitentiary, Tennessee. Brushy Mountain wasn't built for ghosts. It was built for punishment. In 1896, after the Coal Creek War, Tennessee needed a secure place to hold prisoners. They picked a remote hollow in Morgan County. Inmates were forced to build it themselves, by hand, and work its coal mine. By 1935, it became a massive stone fortress with walls 18 feet high. The prison grew quickly. By 1927, it held 919 men. Forced to mine coal daily, many died from accidents or disease.
Digging for coal was dangerous. The inmates doing the digging may not have known a thing about mining.
Some prisoners were notorious. James Earl Ray, who killed Martin Luther King Jr., was held here. He even escaped once in 1977, briefly. Violence was constant. In 1982, a racially charged gun massacre killed guards and inmates alike.
Ray would make it out of Brushy a couple of years later, when 3 inmates attacked him in June 1981.
The prison finally closed in 2009 after 113 years. Since then, ghost stories have spread. Chairs moving, whispers in solitary. A paranormal team even filmed a cigarette smoked by a ghost. And while Brushy Mountain was about keeping people in, this next place in the desert of Namibia was abandoned by choice, then swallowed by sand. Number 11. Colemanskop, Namibia.
Before long, the fortune seekers arrived, and by 1912, Colemanskop was a wealthy town in the desert.
In April 1908, a railway worker named Zacharias Lavala cleared dunes near Luderitz. He spotted a sparkling stone. His boss, August Stauck, tested it, diamond, and just like that, a diamond rush began. Within years, Colemanskop rose in the desert. German-style mansions, a hospital with Africa's first X-ray, a casino, a power plant, an ice factory, and even a tram. By 1912, it produced about 1 million carats a year, roughly 12% of the world's output. The town thrived, importing champagne from Cape Town, boasting luxury in the middle of nowhere. But greed fueled it. Locals were excluded as it became a forbidden zone. Then, in the 1920s, richer diamond fields were discovered. Colemanskop declined fast.
By the late 1920s, richer deposits of diamonds had been discovered further south at Oranjemund, and people started leaving.
By 1956, it was abandoned. Myths say it's cursed or haunted, but no proof exists. What you see today the desert reclaiming empty homes. Sand fills rooms, doorways are half buried, and sunlight cuts through broken glass. Colemanskop stands as a frozen monument to colonial wealth, now slowly sinking back into the dunes. Number 10. Ghost towns in California's Sierra Nevadas. In the late 1800s, California's Sierra Nevada foothills were gold country. In 1859, a prospector named Waterman S. Bodie found gold near Mono Lake. Sadly, he died that same year in a snowstorm, but his name lived on, Bodie. By 1876, another gold strike turned Bodie from tents to a booming town. By 1879, up to 10,000 people called it home. Saloons lined the streets, hotels, stores, and a red light district kept the miners busy. But the gold rush didn't last. As richer strikes were found elsewhere, Bodie began to fade. By 1915, it was labeled a ghost town. The last mine shut down in 1942. Today, Bodie is preserved as a state historic park. About 200,000 visitors explore it each year. Myths say it's haunted, that bad luck follows anyone who steals artifacts. Park staff confirm stolen items do mysteriously return, but there's no proof of a curse. The truth? It's a town frozen in time, where the real ghosts are the empty buildings and the stories they still hold.
In the market for some real estate? What about a ghost town, straight out of the Wild West?
Now, from a desert town left to the winds, we move offshore to the steel skeletons of a forgotten war. Number 9. Monsul Sea Forts, UK. During World War II, the British government needed a way to defend its coast from German planes and ships. Enter engineer Sir Guy Monsul. In 1942, he built giant sea forts, floating steel towers stationed in the Thames and Mersey estuaries. Each naval fort had 2 towers linked by walkways, while army forts had 7 platforms. They housed up to 150 men, armed with anti-aircraft guns. The forts shot down 22 enemy planes and about 30 V-1 flying bombs. After the war, they were abandoned by the late 1950s. That's when myths took over. Stories of pirate radio broadcasters, haunted towers, and secret alien signals spread. The truth? Pirate radio did happen, until British laws shut it down. One naval fort, HM Fort Ruffs, was claimed in 1967 by Paddy Roy Bates, who declared it the micronation of Sealand. Today, only a few forts remain, rusting in the sea. Groups like Project Red Sands work to preserve them.
There used to be walkways between them. You can still see the remains of one there, but the rest have all fallen into the sea.
From steel towers lost to time, we head to India, where an entire town was swept away in a single night. Number 8. Danushkoti, India. Danushkoti, on India's southeastern tip, was once a lively port town. By the early 1900s, it had a railway station, post office, church, hospital, school, and shops. The Indo-Ceylon boat mail connected it to Sri Lanka. Then came December 22, 1964. A massive cyclone struck, winds of nearly 170 miles per hour. Waves 7 to 8 meters high crashed ashore. The town was destroyed. A passenger train with 115 people was washed away. Around 1,800 lives were lost. Afterward, the government declared Danushkoti unfit for living. Myths soon followed. Tales of Lord Rama breaking the land with his bow, creating the area's name. Pilgrims still visit nearby Ram Setu, or Adam's Bridge. Today, only ruins remain, a church, temple, and broken tracks. About 500 fishermen live there, drawing water from wells. Tourists visit to witness where the Bay of Bengal meets the Indian Ocean. But beneath the waves and wind lies the real story. A thriving town erased in a single unforgettable night. And speaking of what the wind leaves behind, our next stop is a graveyard of iron and steam, abandoned in the Bolivian desert. Number 7. Train Cemetery, Bolivia. In the late 1880s, Bolivia built railroads to move silver, tin, and other minerals to the Pacific coast. On November 20th, 1890, President Aniceto Arce rode the first train into Uyuni. The town became a major rail hub, near rich silver mines. But by the 1940s, mining slowed. Diesel engines replaced steam. Shipping old locomotives back to Britain? Too costly. So, they were left to rust on the desert plain. Today, more than 100 locomotives and rail cars sit just outside Uyuni.
I joined a tour from Uyuni, and the first place they go to is the train cemetery.
Wind and salt from Salar de Uyuni have corroded them into skeletal remains. Myths say Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid once robbed a train here, but there's no proof. Now, the train cemetery is an open site. No fences, no guards. Tourists come for the haunting sight, especially at sunrise and sunset. The real story? An industry abandoned to the desert, where the ghosts are steam engines standing watch in the sand. Now, from the Bolivian sands to Belgium, where one grand chateau became a decaying magnet for ghost stories. Number 6. Chateau Miranda, Belgium. In 1866, Belgian nobility wanted a summer home. Count Liedekerk de Beaufort hired English architect Edward Milner to design a neo-Gothic chateau near Celle. After Milner's death in 1884, construction continued. By 1907, Chateau Miranda stood complete, 500 windows, a 56-meter clock tower. The family lived there until World War II. German troops briefly occupied it. After the war, the Belgian Railway Company turned it into a camp for sick and underprivileged children. Renamed Chateau de Noisy, it hosted up to 200 kids, but by the late 1970s, the camp closed. From 1991 onward, the chateau sat abandoned. Fires, storms, and neglect followed. Explorers and ghost hunters swarmed in. Myths spoke of a white lady haunting the halls, satanic curses, mysterious screams, but no evidence supports any of it. The real story? A grand home too costly to save. In 2016, demolition began. By 2017, the tower fell. Today, Chateau Miranda exists only in memory and in the photos of those who dared to walk its decaying halls. Number 5. Hashima Island. Hashima Island, better known as Battleship Island, sits off Japan's coast. Its story began in the early 1800s when coal was discovered. By 1887, Mitsubishi had bought the island and began serious mining. The island grew, reinforced concrete walls, and 9-story apartment buildings were built to protect against typhoons.
This place is known as Battleship Island, aka Gukenjima or Hashima Island.
By 1959, more than 5,000 people lived on just 16 acres, one of the highest population densities in history. Families had electricity and even TV, but behind this progress was a darker truth. In the 1930s and during World War II, forced laborers from Korea and China were made to work in brutal conditions. Many died from accidents or starvation. By 1974, coal ran out. Mitsubishi shut the mine. The island was abandoned overnight. Nature took over. In 2015, Hashima was added to UNESCO's World Heritage List, along with the uncomfortable truth about its past. Some call it Hell Island. Some call it Jail Island. The ghosts people speak of are not paranormal. They're the memories of real suffering, sealed in concrete. And from an island of forced labor, we move to a forgotten American town, one that quietly faded while myths tried to fill the gaps. Number 4. Union Level, Virginia. Union Level, Virginia wasn't born in a single moment. It just grew. In 1836, it began as a small way station. The post office opened that year. In 1890, the arrival of the Atlantic and Danville Railroad brought new life.
Keith Dotson here in the tiny ghost town of Union Level, Virginia. Locals call this the most photographed ghost town in Virginia.
Soon there were stores, barbershops, a pharmacy, bank, boarding house, dance hall, and depot. Saturdays were busy. Farmers filled the streets, buying supplies and filling gas tanks. But the Great Depression hit hard. Businesses closed. The railroad shut down in the 1980s. By 1990, even the post office was gone. Today, just a few boarded storefronts remain. Myths say the town is haunted. Some speak of curses, but the truth is quieter. This is just a rural town that was left behind by time and changing economies. The eerie silence comes from decades of neglect, not supernatural forces. And if a faded town leaves behind empty streets, this next place leaves behind a sprawling hospital complex, where the walls themselves seem to remember. Number 3. Belitz Heilstätten, Germany. Built in 1898, Belitz Heilstätten was a massive hospital complex designed to fight tuberculosis. By 1902, it held 600 patients. During World War I, it served as a military hospital.
In the final days of World War II, it was being used as a military hospital.
A young Adolf Hitler was treated there in 1916. After World War II, the Soviets took over, using it as their largest military hospital outside the USSR. They finally left in 1994. Since then, the abandoned complex became a magnet for ghost stories. Some say it's haunted. Others claim satanic rituals happened there, but officials call these fairy tales. The real story? Belitz is a decaying relic of medical history. Its long halls, peeling paint, and empty rooms draw urban explorers, not spirits. In recent years, parts of the site were renovated. A treetop walkway opened in 2015. Some buildings now serve as museums or residential spaces. And while Belitz's walls still stand, this next structure didn't survive the wrath of nature. It became a worldwide symbol of destruction overnight. Number 2. Starjet Roller Coaster, USA. The Starjet coaster was built in 2002 in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. It wasn't huge, just 52 feet tall with a 45-foot drop. But when Hurricane Sandy hit on October 29, 2012, it became something else entirely. The storm destroyed part of the pier, sending the Starjet crashing into the Atlantic.
This roller coaster is named Starjet and operated at Casino Pier until 2012 when Hurricane Sandy destroyed it.
The twisted steel stood eerily intact in the surf, an image seen around the world. One man even paddled out to plant a U.S. flag on it, raising awareness for recovery efforts. Authorities dismantled the coaster in May 2013. Governor Chris Christie and even Prince Harry visited during its removal. The Starjet was replaced by the Hydrus coaster in 2017, built inland to avoid future storms. Myths of the coaster being haunted are just that, myths. And speaking of rising legacies, our final stop takes us to Argentina, where beneath grand marble tombs, stories both beautiful and tragic lie in wait. Number 1. La Recoleta Cemetery, Argentina. Opened on November 17, 1822, La Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires began life as a converted convent garden. Its layout, designed by French engineer Prospero Catalan, resembles a miniature city, avenues lined with ornate tombs. The cemetery holds more than 4,600 vaults. 94 are designated National Historic Monuments. Notable figures rest here, Eva Perón among them. But it's the myths that draw visitors too. The most famous? 19-year-old socialite Rufina Cambaceres, allegedly buried alive in 1902. Workers later heard scratching sounds. When her coffin was opened, marks were found inside. Today, her statue stands as if opening the mausoleum door. Another legend speaks of the lady in white, seen weeping at night. But authorities say such tales are folklore, not fact. So now you've seen the places where even time seems afraid to stay. But tell me, would you dare set foot on Snake Island? Would you walk through a tunnel where lights swing with no one there? Drop your thoughts below. You're not gonna want to miss what's coming next.